Hey everyone, it's Richard Metal Fan here, bringing you guys an old school album review. And today we're going to be talking about this album's 40th anniversary, and it's from the band that started it all when it comes to this style of music. And as you can see below the title, we're going to be talking about Mob Rules by Black Sabbath, the band's 10th full-length album released on November 4th, 1981 through Warner Brothers Records. Now, this, of course, follows up their previous album, Heaven and Hell, which came out a year earlier, and that was around the time where they got a new singer. After Ozzy Osbourne left, they got the late, great Ronnie James Dio singing for them. But it wasn't until we go into it then with their second album with Dio in 1981, they had another lineup change where their drummer Bill Ward had left the band, and playing drums with them on this album they got Vinny Appice, which I honestly think is a great replacement. Coming from Bill Ward to Vinny, I think Vinny does a really great job on the drums. And yeah, this pretty much follows up the same style as Heaven and Hell, but I think Mob Rules is also another great album. And I think the Dio era of Black Sabbath is just amazing. One thing to note, like Ronnie James Dio, in my opinion, my all-time favorite vocalist. Like, he's just really has that powerful voice. Like, it's just really commanding, whether you heard him with Dio, Rainbow, or the Dio era Sabbath. It just, this album, that voice, once you hear it, you definitely can have it. He has that signature voice, and just rest in peace. And Tony Iommi, riff lord, nothing really else that needs to be said that hasn't been said already. The bass playing from is audible, like Geezer can really complement Tony's guitar playing as well as like the drumming on the album. And Vinny Appice, really tough shoes to fill in after Bill Ward left, but I think Vinny does a great job on the drums. So without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is Turn Up the Night. Now, it's a fantastic way to kick off this album. It's just really fun and very energetic. And the riffs are here is simple, but it's not simple enough to be like boring. I think the riffs here is very punchier, and the difference between like Turn Up the Night and of course Neon Nights from the previous album, Heaven and Hell, it can be summarized in like the difference in here. The chorus here on this song is really catchy, and Tony's like lead playing is all over it, as well as his solo is super cool and a lot of fun. And I love like the choruses sounds a little bit multi-tracked, along with like those lead flourishes that really give the chorus like that kind of like big powerful feeling to it. So overall, Turn Up the Night, great way to start off this album. And then we get to the next song, which is called Voodoo, which has one of my favorite Tony riffs of all time. And I find the riff to be really catchy and also having a great flow and a rhythm to it. And Vinny's pounding behind it just adds like a great groove. And Geezer playing like a great bass hook that feels a little bit more isolated from the rest of the band. I feel like Dio just comes in just as a whole on this track. And this is another song that I feel like it tells like a story with just the tone of his voice alone, and his voices in the verses are just absolutely amazing. Next up, we get to, in my opinion, one of the best songs from the Dio era of Black Sabbath, called The Sign of the Southern Cross. Now, when it comes to this song, from like creating it from the ground up, and Tony just starts off with a fantastic acoustic guitar that gives like the entire album a lot of like variety and weight, and Dio's voice just sails and soars over the top with grace and beauty. And this song just explodes with like a slower stomping Iommi riff, and he has like the best riffs across this album behind Dio's vocals, and then Geezer adds some cool effects to his bass, which kind of gives it kind of like a little bit of a cold, somber feeling to it. During the main riff, he adds like a lot of like different bass lines that pretty much go really unnoticed, but add a lot of to the song. And Vinny is really great with the drumming, and it has a fantastic solo from Tony Iommi on here as well. Moving on, we get to a little instrumental called E5 150, which this song is just really creepy and surprisingly heavy. It's kind of like similar to like the 70s era of Black Sabbath, kind of like that kind of like odd kind of creepy vibe to it. And then we lead to the title track of the album, The Mob Rules. Now, this song is just really aggressive, and then Dio's voice is again, it just shows that how versatile this man was. And so much of like the Heaven and Hell from the last album shows off his really just powerful range. But I think the Mob Rules is just pure anger, just power and energy from Dio, and his scream to open this song up. And then the screaming chorus just calls for just great staples. And then Tony's riffs just match the energy, quickness, and aggression to the entire way through. And this might be the Black Sabbath song when it comes to just raw strength and just pure just energy that comes to heavy metal. Moving on to Country Girl. Now Tony just unleashes another stunning riff, and Vinny's like drumming just gives it a very unique feel. And it's just little moments like this that Vinny just shows off what brilliant drummer they truly is. And then there's a riff that sort of has a foreboding feeling to it that matches like Dio's vocals, and it really just follows like what the melody of the guitars are doing, and it just gives the verses a perfect blend and a mixture of the two, and it gives like another peak of his versatility on this song. It has that kind of like that anger fury in the verses, but it's also very melodic side as the transition right in the middle of the song before the solo, and the whole track I feel like is just a journey, and like and another one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs. No, I feel like this song, when you hear it, Country Girl, it's a bit misleading, but it pretty much shows that you definitely don't need to judge a book by its cover. Next up is Slipping Away. Now, Slipping Away is probably the weakest on this album, but it's still very, very good. I just feel like it's just unfortunately matched by the absolute light out tracks of the rest of this album. And Dio's like the chorus here is very melodic and it's great, and then the chorus where every member of the band has small solos is a real treat. And then Vinny gets a section where he's just throwing in some of the best fills while Geezer and Tony just giving him some room, and it has another like little dueling like guitar and bass solos from Tony and Geezer, and it's just really good song. Next up we get to Falling Off the Edge of the World. Now I don't really think you can I don't even know what more you can ask for a song. It starts off with a sad, clean intro that builds into deep emotion inside of Dio's voice, and it has an equally mournful orchestration behind it. From there, the song just builds and builds with like Vinny's like drum intro, then the first of Tony's heavy riffs, and then every second of the song is just layered on itself. And then when Tony introduces his main riff, it's one of the greatest ever, and Dio's voice is just filled with this aggression, and the main melody of the song, both the riffs and the vocal wise, have so much fire just going in it. And then we close things out with Over and Over, which I will say that this song is one of the tracks that really just showcases Vinny's drumming thing, and I feel like he's a great replacement for Bill Ward on this album. And I thought it sounded like Bill's style is on top of it, but I think he did a better job here than Bill did on Heaven and Hell, especially with when they played the old songs live during this touring cycle. I just think it's great. Now overall, Mob Rules by Black Sabbath, another great album with the Dio era, but it's a shame like around this after when they were touring on this album, they both Dio and Vinny left after, and they wouldn't appear for a little over a decade later until Dehumanizer. But I just think this album is just a good album. So if I had to give this album a score, I'm going to give Mob Rules by Black Sabbath with a solid 9.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of the album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.